He cuffed the teenager because he didn't look right. She, the newly elected governor, stood between him and a system that had been destroying lives for centuries. What happened next shocked even the most jaded observers. But let's start from the beginning. A bustling street in front of a small diner. In the parking lot, an intense confrontation unfolds. A young black teenager stands by the open door of a car, surrounded by two police officers. A silent crowd of passers-by watches, some recording the incident on their phones. Alice Brooks, dressed in casual attire to avoid drawing attention, approaches the scene, her curiosity and resolve compelling her to intervene. "Hey, you! Back off!" One of the officers, Walters, barks at Alice. His tone is sharp and icy, his irritation palpable as he steps toward her. "What's going on here?" Alice asks calmly. Her measured tone causes Walters to hesitate for a split second before he regains his composure. "Ma'am, you don't belong here. This is a police operation. Step back!" He gestures firmly toward the sidewalk. The teenager lowers his gaze, his face a mask of fear. Alice glances at the crowd, expressions of unease and tension mirrored in their eyes. "You're required to explain your actions," Alice says evenly, taking a step closer. "On what grounds are you detaining this young man?" Walters narrows his eyes, his irritation boiling over into anger. "I'll say it again. Step away, or I'll arrest you for obstructing justice." He pulls out his radio, but before he can say anything, a loud voice rises from the crowd. "That's the governor!" a woman shouts, her phone held up to record. "That's our governor, Alice Brooks!" Walters freezes. His composure falters as his eyes dart between the crowd, the woman, and Alice herself. "Governor?" he scoffs, attempting to mask his unease with bravado. "Prove it," he adds, folding his arms. Alice calmly reaches into her bag, retrieves her ID, and holds it out. The crowd stirs, murmurs growing into audible gasps and exclamations. Walters reluctantly takes the ID, his face paling slightly as he reads it. "This doesn't change the fact that we're conducting an investigation," Walters protests, his voice losing its edge, his confidence wavering. Alice fixes him with a steady gaze. "Then explain to all these people," she says, motioning toward the crowd, "why you've surrounded this young man." Phones rise higher in the crowd as people start recording more intently. Walter shifts on his feet, clearly nervous, but unwilling to back down just yet. The tension thickens, rippling through the crowd like a storm gathering on the horizon. The air feels electric, heavy with anticipation, as voices grow louder, their collective demand for answers rising with the intensity of an impending tempest. The crowd grows louder, buzzing with heated discussions. Some shout questions at Walters, others upload videos to social media. The tension thickens as the situation escalates. "We received a report of a theft," Walters finally blurts out, his voice strained as he tries to maintain control. The boy matches the description. "Do you have evidence?" Alice asks, her voice calm but firm. "Did you find any stolen items on him?" "No, but—" Walters falters, realizing how hollow his justification sounds. "He was acting suspiciously." "Suspiciously?" Alice folds her arms across her chest, raising her voice just enough for the crowd to hear. "So now standing by your own car is considered suspicious behavior?" The boy by the car, Jason, speaks up for the first time, his voice trembling. "I was just looking for my keys. They fell onto the seat. I didn't do anything." Walters, visibly rattled by the public scrutiny, shifts tactics. Turning toward the crowd, he barks, "All of you better disperse. This isn't a show." "You made it a show, officer," Alice retorts coldly, "when you decided to humiliate a young man without cause." Walter's face flushes red as he struggles to contain the growing discontent. At that moment, another patrol car pulls up. A senior officer, Sergeant Miller, steps out, his polished uniform reflecting authority. The crowd's attention immediately shifts to him, their voices rising with demands for answers. Miller quickly surveys the scene. Spotting Alice, his expression changes to one of caution and respect. "Madam Governor, I apologize for the misunderstanding, Miller says, stepping closer. Officer, release the boy. But Sergeant, Walters begins to protest, but Miller silences him with a sharp look. I said, release him, Miller repeats firmly. Jason looks stunned as Walters begrudgingly removes the handcuffs. This incident will not go unnoticed, Alice declares, her voice as sharp as a blade. We'll talk later, Sergeant. The crowd collectively exhales in approval, recording every word and gesture. Walters stands off to the side, jaw clenched and face pale, realizing his authority is slipping away. Alice turns to face him, her gaze piercing. Your actions today are not just a mistake. They are a reflection of a deeper problem in our system, and I intend to fix it. The crowd erupts into applause, cheers echoing through the street. Walters glances at Miller for support, but the sergeant only averts his eyes, offering no reprieve. Despite Miller's order to release Jason, the tension at the scene remains palpable. The crowd continues recording, bombarding the officers with questions, as videos of the incident quickly spread across social media. A nearby journalist snaps several photos and posts the first tweet. The governor personally intervenes in a police incident. Systemic racism in action? Alice keeps a sharp eye on Sergeant Miller as he issues commands, trying to regain control of the situation. Meanwhile, she notices Officer Walters becoming increasingly agitated, his hands trembling, his face flushed. You still haven't explained what was found in the car, Alice says, stepping closer. Nothing, Walters admits begrudgingly, avoiding her gaze. But that kid could have hidden something. Could have isn't a valid reason for an arrest, Alice replies, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. You acted on bias, and that's not just a mistake, it's a threat to our society. Walters opens his mouth to argue, but Miller raises a hand, silencing him. My apologies for my subordinate's actions, Governor, Miller says, his tone measured. We'll conduct a thorough investigation into this incident. A thorough investigation? Alice retorts, her words laced with sarcasm. Like all the others? Your department is supposed to protect people, not threaten them. Meanwhile, Jason, now freed from the handcuffs, approaches Alice hesitantly. Thank you, ma'am, he says, his voice trembling with lingering fear. If you hadn't shown up... He trails off, unable to finish the thought. It's okay, Alice reassures him, placing a steadying hand on his shoulder. I'm here to stand up for people like you. The crowd breaks into applause, and a voice shouts, Tell everyone about this! Things have to change! The scene grows more chaotic as reporters swarm Jason, asking questions. He explains, his voice shaky but resolute, that he was simply searching for his keys in his car when Walters decided he looked suspicious. The crowd erupts with outrage, and someone shouts, This was because of his skin color, and we all know it. Walters stands off to the side, visibly crumbling under the weight of the scrutiny. His authority is evaporating before his eyes, as is the respect of his colleagues. Pulling out his phone, he sees notifications piling up. Tweets, videos, and hashtags already going viral. One clip has gained over 10,000 views in just minutes. The reality sinks in. His career is on the line. Alice turns to Miller, her gaze unyielding. By 9 a.m. tomorrow, I expect a full report on my desk. A complete breakdown of every officer's actions in this incident. And tell your team to prepare for a thorough review. Miller nods curtly, his face grim. He understands just how far this has spiraled out of control. Alice then addresses the crowd, her voice carrying the weight of her authority. Today, we've shown that everyone must be held accountable for their actions, especially those who abuse their power. This is only the beginning. We will change this system, and I promise you, we will make it fair. Her words ignite thunderous applause. Reporters rush to broadcast her speech live, and social media fills with her powerful message. Walters looks at Alice with a mixture of anger and fear, knowing full well that the truth is out, and accusations against him are inevitable. There is no hiding from the consequences now. The day after the incident, the video goes viral, dominating news and social media with the hashtag #JusticeNow. Alice Brooks holds a press conference at the Capitol, addressing the crowd. Yesterday's incident wasn't just one officer's mistake. It highlights systemic issues in law enforcement. I'm establishing an independent oversight council to investigate police misconduct and bias. This is the priority of my administration. Applause erupts as activists outside hold signs like, "Police reform now." At the station, Sergeant Miller suspends Walters, citing numerous complaints against him. Walters storms out, confronted by journalists and activists. Cameras capture every moment as his authority crumbles. Later, Alice meets Jason, who thanks her. "You didn't just help me, you helped everyone facing this." "This is just the beginning," she promises. In the weeks that follow, oversight investigations begin. Officers are dismissed, and bias training is implemented. Alice becomes a national symbol for reform, her story making headlines as "The Governor Who Stopped Injustice." Final scene. Alice gazes at a photo of her father, a civil rights activist, her expression resolute. The fight isn't over, but it's well underway.